Welcome, everyone, to the Meaningful Hearts podcast, where we discuss the everyday questions that make us or break us if we let them. With your hosts, Drew and Daniela. Take our hands and let's walk this journey together. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Meaningful Hearts podcast. And today, I want to explore the beautiful world of self-doubt. I want to be clear with everyone. I want to be a little bit upfront. You know, we talk about a lot of subject matter that has to do with life and how to tackle it. Well, I'm in a little bit of a pickle myself. I'm going through a transitional phase in my career and kind of having a little bit of a worrisome? No. Kind of having a situation where kind of figuring out what I want to do and where I want to go. It's transitional phase. So I want to explore that on the show and be completely transparent with you guys. Daniela is going to throw darts at me and prod and poke. I'm going to be the Rainapippian, the frog of the experiment.
The what?
Rainapippian.
Taught me something new.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. Science class, 7th grade.
What is it?
It's a frog. It's the scientific name for a frog.
So you're going to be a frog right now?
Yeah, I'm going to be being dissected.
Oh, I get it.
You know, you dissect a frog.
That's funny.
I don't know what you dissected. I don't know if you dissected anything in school. Oh, you didn't?
No.
Okay.
No.
Bless your soul. Bless your soul.
Yeah. I think that was no
disgusting.
longer part of the curriculum.
Yeah, it was funky. You know what it reminded me of? The color, it looked like artichoke hearts. And yeah. Yeah. Had that off-colored greenish.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Not. I'm kind of glad.
Yeah, for the sake of science and learning, I guess it's really awesome. But for the whole idea of the class and the smell, I was not with it. But let's not deviate from what we're talking about here. Get your scalpel.
Yeah.
We're going in.
Yeah, I would like to lead that. Prior to starting to record, we did briefly talk about it being a good idea for this episode to be a vulnerable one and have me ask Drew some questions about what he's currently dealing with. You know, I wouldn't say very similar because there's no way that I could be Drew's therapist, but some of the questions and things to explore are questions I might ask somebody in session. So, yeah, should be a good one. So tell me and tell us, Drew, what are you currently experiencing other than what you just shared, of course?
Well, I guess every once in a while or every few years, depending on where you're at in your life, you like to reassess on a grander scale, on the macro, right? We're always digesting. We're always like dissecting our lives on the micro, right? Our day-to-day lives, things that we have pending, things that we need to do. But sometimes there's milestones or points in your life where you start to reflect and you're like, whoa, you know what? I got lost in the sauce for a while and I realized like, where am I going and how did I end up on this path? And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm on that path of trying to figure out how did I get here? You know, fast forward a couple of years, and is this road where I want to continue to go on, or do I want to hit a fork and make a left and go in another direction? Or maybe I need to reassess where I was going and how I've kind of went off course, right? Maybe 1% each month or 1% each day, and I started to go off course. So pretty much there's been events that have happened in my life that have made me really like come to a screeching halt and be like, whoa, Andrew, what are you doing? What's going on here? And that's where I'm at. It's like, it's scary. It's exciting, but it also makes me wonder, how did I get here? And I guess more I'm doing a little soul searching on trying to figure that out.
How does what you're currently sharing, where does the self-doubt start to come in?
Well, I think that as of recent, I've not hit some milestones, things that I was expecting to do in the past 6 months, goals that I set for myself, and I fell short. And I didn't fall short necessarily all on my doing, but on reliance of somebody else. I guess I failed to impress them enough for them to give me an opportunity. And of course, that goes right back on you, on yourself, and saying, what am I not good enough? Do I not have what it takes? But I've proven this in the past in other scenarios. Why here am I being questioned? Am I going crazy? Is it me? Is it the person? Am I being gaslighted? Right? All these questions come up. I always come back to myself first because I'm trying to always be accountable. Where did I go wrong in this interaction over the course of said years or months, where this person made a decision to say this, right? Or to believe this? It has to be partially on me, right? So with doing that, I start to assess on a micro scale. I start to, with a fine tooth comb, kind of go through, kind of go through it and see, where is it? With a little magnifying glass. What am I doing? Why am I going about it this way? Like, you start to double check back. You start to second guess yourself, and it gets kind of ugly. And then you kind of forget why you're looking in the first place, and then you kind of spiral. It gets kind of ugly.
I was literally that word literally just came to my mind. That
I thought of you.
Spiral.
We're connected. You're like, Andrew, say this word. She's got
and
a button
when
in
I'm
her
thinking
desk.
about it and thinking about what you were just saying, that's honestly what I would say if we were actually in a session. I'm obviously listening to you, but it does sound like by starting this journey of self-reflection, or by taking some time to reflect on what you've accomplished, what you fell short in, you start to question yourself. And you really do. It sounds like you started to spiral. The main thing that I heard from you, and I hear in my patients and even in myself sometimes, is that question: am I not good enough? I think that's the biggest thing that ties into self-doubt, because we wonder, what did we do wrong? Whether it's in a relationship, whether it's careers, whether it's in school, academics, sports, whatever it is. That's a common question that I hear people ultimately experience, myself included. I remember there was a time where I was very doubtful of myself and my ability to be a therapist. But that's a story for another time. Let's go back to you. So tell me more.
What's there to tell?
Well, I guess tell me more of how you end up in this spiral. How did you develop that habit? Where does that come from?
I think it always, reflecting back, I always try to go back to my childhood, right? I always go back to that place, the young Andrew that still lives inside of me, right? That child still lives inside of me. I'm just an adult. I mask, you mask things, your emotions, you're a little more in control of things. But in the end of the day, that scared child lives inside of you. And then you follow back to that child's memories. So I go back to living at home and seeing how my parents tackled crises or situations where they would be very hard on themselves. And in turn, I would kind of just absorb all that. Because when I had my own shortcomings, I would also make excuses or be hard on myself. And it's interesting because I would have conversations. We're always going to go back to my dad. My dad's the champion. He's the champion of reflection. And it would always be, if somebody succeeded, it was because they were lucky. It was because they were in the right place at the right time. You gotta strike the oil and it pops out. It's there, but it's just a chance encounter. Now, listen, there is about, I would say, 1% to 2% luck, and the rest of it is a lot of hard work, because you might get an opportunity, but if you do not have the abilities, the aptitude in order to seize the moment, you're not going to succeed. So it's mostly work. You're and it always came down to that. So that mentality level. So when I failed, I gave up pretty quickly. I always got down on myself and said, you know what, you're just not lucky enough. You just don't. And I didn't realize it just came down to hard work. Anyways, so my logic brain understands that. As I've gotten older and I've reflected off of other people in my life, I realized it's not so simple, that it requires, skill and it requires work. But in any case, I always revert back to that primitive mindset sometimes. It's almost like a default. If I don't closely like grasp myself, sometimes I lose myself, and I go back to like, whoa, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe it's not meant for me. It's just, see, Andrew, it's happening just like all the other times.
That hurts my heart.
Yeah, I mean,
as my partner, that hurts my heart. Yeah. As a professional, it would hurt me in a different way. Just kind of.
She cries at all of her sessions and she hugs everybody. She's a hugger.
I have hugged people, but I ask beforehand.
Yes.
But I think, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that it really just comes down to, I always reflect on my environment. So for a moment, I'll lose myself and like, Andrew, maybe this is not for you. And then the other part of me is like, Andrew, what are you talking about? You could fail a million times. Does not reflect that you are the problem. It's just that you got to work a little further at it. And it's a hard concept to grasp, because how many times could you fail before you start to think maybe it is me? It's a normal human reaction, right? You burn your hand so many times. You're like, maybe I shouldn't stick my hand in the fire. Not a good idea. But sometimes that last time you decide to push forward, you push through. And that's the beauty of success. At what level you decide to push through. And I think sometimes it's hard for me to grasp that, because I still fight the mindset of, I was not meant for more. I don't deserve more. That I'm not lucky enough, right? So I always go back to that, that voice that was very much in my life, right? My parents. It was, and I was raised to be like, Andrew, play it safe. Andrew, go to college, get a good job. Like, it was such basic stuff. It wasn't like, Andrew, go for the moon. It was, Andrew, you get a good job. The job is going to be secure. You have a family, you get a house. And it's like, that's all bullshit, right? But it was like, Andrew, play it safe as you can. I even have these conversations with my mom now, and she'll be like, oh, so, like, what are you doing to be safe? It's like always safe. Now, they quote unquote played it safe, but they still had a ton of turmoil in their lives. So it makes you wonder, what are you really saying? So I have all this crazy, like, yarn ball cat playing thing that's rolling down the hill.
Ball of yarn.
Ball of yarn. There you go.
A ball of yarn.
Yeah. And I guess I battle with it. Like, obviously I'm not out speaking out loud about it, but in my mind, you go to some places like, that's so silly, but you entertain it because
it's very either.
Well, it seems, in a logical sense, it seems silly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are things that cannot happen to you in real life, but we entertain these things like, that could possibly happen. It's like, no, it can't.
Well, I say not silly because that's what I would say if I were in a session.
If you were in a session.
If I were in a session.
I think both are correct.
Yeah,
if I were in a session.
If I was,
I don't know. Yeah. You're the grammar. You're the grammar expert, not me.
I am.
You know what? This is why ChatGPT, so doesn't matter what you do. You just say, ChatGPT, what should I say?
No.
I'm starting to see why humans are fault.
No. Well, the reason why I say that it's not silly, is because I would say that to somebody, because so many of us can relate to that, and we can logically tell ourselves, man, that's silly thinking. But what we end up doing when we say that is we end up invalidating our own feelings, much like our parents. And you and I have said this before, when we talk about our parents, when we talk about our childhood experiences, it's important to emphasize that we are not here to bash or only talk badly about the people who raised us. In a lot of ways, I'm grateful for the way that I was raised, because I'm able to have the conversations that I have now. But at the same time, it is reflecting on the difficulties that we experience in childhood. And for you in particular, with everything that you've just shared, I've heard very similar stories where people, and even in the seminars that we've attended, that's a common narrative. The success is only for the ones who are lucky, the ones who, I don't know, pulled their name out of a hat and just happen to make it. The ideal thing to do is to play it safe. So a lot of the things that you're saying and the narrative that you've shared with us, I think a lot of people can relate to that. And sometimes it is really easy to fall back because that's what you know, that's what's familiar. As uncomfortable, as upsetting as it might be, it's what you're used to, or it's what you used to be used to. At least I know that you've worked on changing your mindset. I've certainly worked on changing mine. But it is pretty, it's pretty normal to be experiencing what you're experiencing. And that was ultimately, or that is ultimately, the goal of this particular episode. You know, a lot of the episodes that we have done, we give feedback on how to, right? How to overcome things, what to do for yourself. But this is, I think, a really good way of helping people feel like they're not alone, like they can relate to your experience in particular, because I think it's pretty understandable, if that makes sense.
It does. I think that it's interesting, right? So the reward of succeeding, like I guess going through the process, you never, I guess you believe that you can succeed, but until you do, and when you do succeed, it's still surreal. I guess that's the reward, right? The payoff, because yes, you believe, but you don't know for, I guess, beyond a reasonable doubt that you will succeed. If that makes any sense.
You lost me a little bit.
Well, I mean, I guess we're a little skeptical, right? I guess I have a skeptical mindset, but that's the beautiful part of it, because I know when I do succeed, I'll be so over the moon about it. In a
Yeah,
sense,
because you would have proven yourself wrong.
Yeah,
Interesting.
the best example is sometimes when I work out, I still have like it's a never ending cycle for me to work out and to bodybuild and to grow my muscle and things like that. But every day that I lift, I don't see myself any different. I still see it as a process that I'm going through. But there are moments where I'm like, oh okay, wow, that's shaping up pretty well. Like, and I can't believe how long I've been doing it for. And I think that's what keeps me humble. And it keeps me in a place where I can keep pushing forward. And I guess that's the best one, right? That's a surreal thing for me. Building my body, that's something I always wanted to do, and I never knew how. And it took years and years, and I'm still learning on how to build my body up and to have a muscular physique, something that I pride myself in. And it's still surreal to me. It's still like, wow. But I guess in a sense, I have to have that same faith in everything else that I do. And just, it's a rep, one rep after the other. It's a certain set of reps for a certain muscle group combined over time, and that compounds, and then you get results slowly but surely, and you get to see them in dividends. That makes
That's interesting. You know, what's really interesting about that is that one of the questions that I thought to ask you is what's been a key component that has helped you in times of self-doubt, and you kind of answered the question, at least when it comes to your physical self.
Yeah, I mean, I think fitness is very important in building strength, not just on the physique, but it does make you feel powerful. Feeling good always helps in every way. You know, you wear nice clothes, you get a good haircut, it helps you feel good to go on a job interview, go to a party, to feel comfortable, right? So I think that it has also helped me in when I do dress up, when I do go to something, I have that power behind me. I am strong, I am fierce, right? I am this person. Now I'm still battling in the arena, but I think it is definitely added. And I also have wins on my back that also help me say, hey, Andrew, you took something from A to B and here you are. You could do this with other things. It's just a different process. It's not as straightforward, or maybe I'm overcomplicating it.
Can you give an example of something that isn't
What?
Related to physical part? Like for what you are going through right now in this period of questioning yourself, self-doubt, asking if you're good enough, what do you deserve, and finding yourself going back to those primitive thought processes. What's something that has helped you despite what you're currently feeling? What's something that's helping you get through it?
Well, I'd say, of course, having an amazing, having an amazing partner.
I definitely raised my hand and said me. I was
Yeah,
pointing
she
at
didn't even
myself.
let me actually say that, so
I
that's on her.
know.
But I was going to say that
That's
having
so
an amazing
funny.
partner and support system is always key. But the rest has to come from you, right? You still have to bring it, because that if you're a sad sack of potatoes, your partner can't help bring you up. You could just mope around, right? So she amplifies, she reflects the good on back on me, and she supports me. So when I'm cheering, when I'm doing something, she's cheering me on. I think that anything positive, I try to stick to positive things. I try to stick to things that are growth minded, and I stay in a certain area. I try to read and look at things that'll help build me financially, and help me build in a sense of career. So I think constantly building and working on myself has really helped me. I think I finally caught my stride in the past, I'd say 3 to 4 years, with being able to do that, because I felt lost many times over and over and over again. It used to be something that I used to live with, like a rain cloud, where I was constantly lost at periods of my life. Like, I would start a job, feel lost. Start this, feel lost. It would just be hanging over me, and I didn't quite realize or understand what it was. I think part of it was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted and being patient on getting the thing that I want most, and not being so urgent on just jumping on anything. Listen, I still struggle with that, but I think that's a main component on my ability to grow. Being in the driver's seat and choosing what I want, and not feeling like I'll take whatever you give me. And I think that was a real big component, especially now in my career, choosing what I want, starting this podcast, continuing on, becoming the person that I've become, and meeting Daniela, who's also chose to become the person she's become. And together we found each other. These are all choices, right? These are all people that we chose to become. And I think that, like anything else, you have to pick and choose what you really want and go after it. And it may not be the right thing, and you might have to change, and that's fine, but you have to choose something and go forth with it. So that's where I'm at. I'm in the choosing process. I'm trying to reassess what I like and I disliked about the last path I went on, reassess, tune it, and then push forward and see how that goes. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm getting over it. I'm getting over it. I was in a little bit of a lull. I was feeling a little down, but I was able to pick myself up a lot faster than I ever was in the past. Cause I would go 6 months, a year. I'd be heavily depressed. I would medicate myself with purchasing things that I didn't need, and just doing stupid stuff. And I think that's I've been able to mitigate a lot of that. And obviously having a great support system on top of that is just to be able to talk about it and express it has also helped me.
Woohoo! I so thank you for sharing that. And I know I had said earlier, we're not going to tell you how to overcome the self-doubt, but I think it just naturally happened a little bit. Now, keep in mind that is just one way for you, our listeners, to think about. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact I guess framework or the exact formula that Drew and I have just been talking about, mainly Drew, because this was more so a moment of vulnerability. Like I said, the main purpose of this particular episode is that no matter where you are, whether you're able to get back on your feet quickly and, you know, look self-doubt in the face and say, I got this, whether it takes you some time or whether you're still figuring out where your self-doubt comes from. This is one of those episodes that's just like, hey, we're here with you. We are human and we're on the same path, the same journey as you are to building a more meaningful life. I think I said that last episode too, but
It's starting to be a thing.
It is very, we are very genuine about this. I also have said this before. One of my favorite things about what Drew would say throughout his episodes was that if we could help or inspire one person, then that's very rewarding within itself. And my hope, and I think that Drew's hope in being vulnerable and sharing and being raw, is to say, hey, we're here with you. And we're going to continue to be here with you. And I think that's a good way to wrap up our current conversation. Drew, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Not at the moment. We'll always follow up on these. These are great conversations.
Awesome. Thank you all for listening.
And have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week.